My name is Honorine Ward. I'm a CMC alumna from the batch of 1969 and a member of the board of directors of the Vellore CMC Foundation. I am delighted to introduce Dr. Priya Abraham, who is the director of the National Institute of Virology in Pune, India. Priya, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with us this evening. So Priya completed her MD and PhD in virology in CMC Vellore and has had a really illustrious career studying viral infections. She was particularly interested initially in hepatitis and human papillomaviruses, and she was head of the Department of Clinical Virology at CMC. While at CMC, she has served on WHO committees on different viral infections. She was a WHO consultant to Myanmar and a WHO external team member to Sri Lanka on various viral infections. She has also served on a scientific advisory committee of the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR, and has been involved in national surveillance studies of viral infections. So Priya took over as the director of the ICMR National Institute of Virology, Pune, on November 18th, 2019. And just 2 months after joining the institute, when the COVID-19 pandemic first started, Priya and her team of scientists at the National Institute of Virology became actively engaged with various aspects of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, including isolation and characterization, and leading to diagnostics and now to vaccine-related efforts. So for the CMC alumni, here's a bit of CMC trivia. So Priya is a CMC alumna of the batch of 1981. She is married to Dr. Abraham Pidikael, batch of 1975, and he is the president of the CMC Alumni Association. Their son, Anand, is from the batch of 2006. So all around, you can see an accomplished CMC alumni family. We are so proud of all of you. Also, Priya, if I remember correctly, you were secretary of the Alumni Association way back in early 2000s, which is where I first met you and how I got to know you. It's a delight to speak with you again. So let's start with your most recent achievement. You and your team at NIV were instrumental in isolating and sequencing one or more strains of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. I'm not sure if it's just one strain or multiple strains. Could you please tell us how this has enabled scientists at NIV to work both on developing diagnostics as well as vaccines for COVID-19? And also, has this work led to drug development for COVID-19? We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, so one of the first things that we were really wanting to get successful with was to actually isolate the virus. And we did that in early March of this year. And that gave us the leverage to make our first indigenous ELISA. This was in March, April, early April, at a time when there were no good serological assays. Today, of course, there are much better serological assays in the market with better accuracy indices. And having been able to culture the virus, we could also set up, the gold standard of antibody assays, namely neutralization assays. Those actually detect protective or functional antibodies. So we got that cracking very soon once we succeeded in isolating the virus. And since we already had made our own real-time reverse transcriptase PCR kit, we had put together a kit, we were able to pick up individuals who had had the infection, recovered from it, get samples who were positive for antibody, and work through developing serological assays. The other big use of having been able to isolate and grow the virus, we have about 11 or 12 strains that we have successfully propagated in the lab, was to contribute to the development of the vaccine. So it is our strain that was given to Bharat Biotech. They have made a whole inactivated virion vaccine, and it is our strain, a strain that we isolated for the first time in March. And that has also been the starting point for not only vaccine, but doing in the course of development of vaccine, virus challenge experiments. So when you want to, when you're developing vaccine, you need to do challenge experiments in small animals and even non-human primates, which we did all of this in our own facility, because we have a BSL-4 level laboratory, the highest containment. So that this turned out to be very handy for us also, the appropriate containment capacity that we had. We also, as part of an expression of interest that was floated from ICMR, we invited 4 to 5 companies to make equine anti-sera, hyperimmunoglobulin. So right now we have almost one product is ready to go up for clinical trials. We're just writing our first manuscript from that. And then we've also gone on to help other institutes, particularly government institutes, by giving them strains of the virus. Because as you know, we were the first to detect the virus, to develop the first whole genome sequence. So we had a pretty good, record of the strains we had detected. So we could, partner with other institutes as well. With regard to you, I think you mentioned something about sequencing. Again, the first 2 sequences from India came out of the first 3 cases that were detected here in this institute. And because I have some really experienced scientists who are comfortable with whole genome sequencing, we've been able to look at least 700 odd strains, the length and breadth of our country. We have generated about 300 odd sequences, but we've looked at 700 or more, and more strains, basically to look at the profile of clades in our country. Yeah. And India, like most other countries, has a spread of many of the clades. We have the G, we have the V, we have the S, the L, the O. As per the GISAID classification, we have all of that.
That's wonderful.
And it was, and it was heartening to know that, the assay, the real-time PCR assay that we picked up was able to pick up all these different varied strains, which meant it was robust enough, as a good diagnostic tool.
That's wonderful. And have you been able to develop any rapid tests?
We are trying to work with a sister ICMR institute. Right now, we don't have a rapid test at all. But what we have really, I think, aced in is to make that, put together this real-time PCR kit, where we put together the probe, the primers, and the right concentration of enzyme. And we've in fact made it, instead of it being in a 3-tube or 4-tube reaction where you're looking at different genes of SARS-CoV-2, we've standardized it to all the different genes in 1 tube. So therefore you can run that many more samples at one go in a plate. So that has been validated by WHO, and we've got 100% performance rate. And now we're going to put it into a little package and package it as ICMR's kit.
Okay, wonderful. So CMC was among the first institutions, I think, to do the RT-PCR testing for SARS-CoV.
CMC was among the first 16 private institutions to have been given the go signal by the government to do. Yes, it was one of the first private institutions to. Yeah.
Yes. So NIV played a key role in empowering diagnostic laboratories for SARS-CoV-2 as well as antibody testing across the country. So have these efforts played a significant role in supporting efforts to trace and isolate cases?
Today, we have 107 VRDLs that are trained, and today something like 998 government labs are testing today. So we've shipped out something like 55 lakhs of PCR reactions to the length and breadth of the country. Just now I got a message saying ship out to the Northeast. So we've even worked out the shipment logistics where we ship out by the next day's flight. If I get an order in the evening, it can only go the next day. So that we've done that. And of course, there was a period of very intense handholding in the months of February and March when the labs were taking off with testing. And flurry of questions and clarifications they wanted from us. We ran a QC/QA program for them, so that was very intense period. But now they are really, they are really fantastic in doing what they're doing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Priya, if I may ask you, what are the major challenges you have faced and the lessons you have learned from this pandemic?
Oh, well, the major challenges in early times was the timely procurement of reagents, particularly probes and good quality primers, RNA extraction kits, because ICMR was looking to us procuring shipping. And every time we ship out the PCR kit, we do a QC, everything, and ship. So it was very demanding because probes came in from overseas. RNA extraction companies had maxed out. So people sit in the center don't often understand the constraints not related to the institute, but related to the the whole challenges of getting stuff from overseas in difficult times where air travel was was kind of grinding to a halt. Right. And all of that was very challenging. Then of course I would get requests from politically very powerful people to do this and that, and to politely indulge them, at the same time say a nice no in some situations. Yeah. Then also procurement, when we forayed into vaccine related efforts to get the equipment, even for like a simple thing like getting a mobile X-ray unit. In a government system, you can't just go and pick up one. You have to float a tender. You have to choose the the cheapest and the most the cheapest and best, so to say. There's a whole process in the government system. So
speaking about CMC, CMC is a private healthcare institution, and as we discussed, recently a few prominent CMC faculty like Cherry and you have taken leadership positions in Government of India institutions. So what does this imply for CMC's prominence at the national level? And where do you see CMC and India's science in healthcare when benchmarked internationally?
Well, I would say for one that CMC alumni have held and will continue to hold positions in government institutions of national repute. I mean, if we go back, the late Dr. K.T. Dinshaw, batch of 1961, she was director of the, the famous Tata Memorial Hospital in Mumbai. Right. And then we have Dr. Gauri Shankar, who was director of the Center for DNA Fingerprinting, all illustrious people. And of course, there's Cherry. Alok has been head of the Stem Cell Center, that's part of the INSTEM, which is part of the EBT. And I think many of our alumni have, those of them who are in India, have become national presidents of their respective professional bodies or organizations. Some have been part of National Task Force and continue to be. And I believe that the government will reach out to CMC whenever they think the necessary expertise is required. They in fact do. And I think even if you think of Dr. George Matthew, the impact he had on the Medical Council of India, your classmate, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he had a very good impact, a very positive influence on the MCI. And I think, yes, CMC will influence policy at the national level. And if you look at some of the contributions our alumni have made, Cherry, of course, huge contribution to vaccinology on the whole, and Alok and Risha in the field of stem cell research. Vikram Matthews, who has come out with affordable and effective therapies for leukemia
Right.
children. And then we have Dr. Balaji, he's one of our postgraduate alumna.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we have Sujit Chandi. They have actually put CMC on the international map in the area of antimicrobial resistance. In fact,
Absolutely.
today, WHO's reference center for antimicrobial resistance in our part of the world lies with CMC. Then we
Yeah.
also know that, our labs, our clinical laboratories have been fantastic. They are all accredited, nationally accredited. Clinical virology, clinical microbiology, and clinical biochemistry are quality assurance providers for the
Right.
whole country. We're
Right.
talking
Right.
about hundreds of labs
Yeah. Yeah.
coming, approaching our laboratories for quality assurance.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's Pratap Tarian, who has done a lot for the
Right.
South Asia Center for Cochrane collaboration. And yes, I think CMC has had pockets of excellence, both in public health and in clinical research. But I think in basic science, we have several miles to go.
Yes. Yes.
Now, that was about our alma mater. And
Yeah.
if you look at India, yes, I think India will have a big role in making SARS-CoV-2 vaccines for the world. You know that the Oxford group, Oxford AstraZeneca, is working with Serum Institute of India.
Right.
The Serum Institute of India has also approached us for help. They're going to be making an indigenous vaccine, and we will be giving them the full support of, again, small animal research, primates, vaccine challenge, etc., and the antibody and cell-mediated immunity assessments. But in India, I think India will be, and I hope will be, a source of vaccine for the rest of the world, as we've seen with other vaccines.
Right.
And of course, with regard to an antiviral agent, nobody's landed on the right one yet, but I do know that when we do figure out a good antiviral agent, India will run with it and will provide bulk manufacture at an affordable price.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that with HIV, with
Right.
hepatitis B and C antivirals. I mean, at a fraction of the cost. So
Right.
I'm confident India will do that for the rest of the world.
No, that's just wonderful. So just one more question for you. So as a woman in India, and we asked Cherry the same question. So how does your, prominent visibility serve as a role model for young Indian women who want to become clinicians or scientists? And how would you, given your prominence as a woman, how would you advise and encourage young women in India?
I hope they see in me a leader who's trying to take the entire team along. And I hope they see a little of what we have imbibed from CMC, that is the culture of hard work, of sincerity, and integrity. I hope they see that.
Yeah.
And also, I think that when we are in a prominent position like this, they need to see a bit of our work culture, and we should be approachable and available even for our young scientists. My job is not complete, and I do hope that they're seeing, I don't know whether they're seeing a good reflection of somebody who's trying to balance work with family. Of course, I'm alone here, but I eke out time every evening to catch up with my family, and so I'm not just like a recluse. But maybe they won't see much of that here because my family is not living here. But to strike a balance, in being trying to be a good human being and also do some amount of science.
Yes, yes, that's a challenge we face. Women, yeah. So thank you so much, Priya. This was really a wonderful chance to speak with you and to learn more about what you're doing. And once again, we're so proud of you. Thank you so much.